My name is Ken Kipnis. I'm in the philosophy department. This is a follow-up on Jonathan Osorio's question. Many of us assembled here are alarmed at what we are seeing as an imminent cannibalization of the University of Hawaii at Manoa. My question is, who has the responsibility to be an advocate for the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Hawaii's university, and why are we not hearing that person's claims and arguments on behalf of the value of this campus to the people in the state of Hawaii?
Obviously, the president, the chancellor, I mean, I think there's obvious. I think the faculty also have a very important role to play here. I mean, we all need to advocate for the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And so I don't think that falls uniquely to one person, but clearly that's something. We have a new president, and we're in a somewhat different situation than we were a few weeks ago.
Kuna. I am an advisor at the Study Abroad Center, and I have these questions for you. You mentioned that tuition revenue can be used for operating expenses. So, what is the percentage cut across campus for tuition revenue?
We haven't cut tuition revenues. We've cut general funds, which is forcing the units to swap their general fund expenditures onto their tuition funds.
And that's 6%.
That was 6% of general funds. The state does not take tuition dollars back from us. They only take general funds back from us. And it's up to us within our fund sources to fund what we can.
My name is Steve O'Hara, Indo-Pacific Languages and Literatures. I've been in a number of conversations I think many people here in the audience have with their friends and colleagues over the last few weeks about the situation. And one subject keeps coming up, and that is CIP, capital improvements, construction. Now, we know that this is largely funded through bonds. However, bonds are serviced, and the debt service in the bonds is a considerable amount of money, considering that we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of capital improvement. The debt service in the bonds is millions of dollars. And I think there's a general feeling among at least my colleagues, people I've talked to, that much of the faculty would prefer to have CIP put on hold and the amounts of monies used for debt service to go back into programs. I don't know if you have any responsibility for that, but I think you should carry that message on to the people who do. Thank you.
We've heard a lot of those discussions as well. The decision to invest in capital improvements or in operational costs is at the governor's level. Not mine. We can carry the message forward.
I am Catherine Folker, University of Hawaii Educational Technology. It seems like to me where we went wrong a few years ago is when WASC sort of the tail wagged the dog, and all of a sudden we got this huge central administration that we so easily put together. All of a sudden, instead of just having a president, we had a president and 10 chancellors. I mean, that's pretty expensive, and now we have a new array of vice chancellors that didn't exist before, and this whole big central administration that's incredibly expensive. And, you know, we can undo it just as easily as it got done. It doesn't seem like to me that it's changed anything. I don't see that it's better. I mean, I've been here 19 years, and I haven't seen a vast improvement for that vast expense. And so I keep wondering, you know, maybe we should just go back where we were before, where the community colleges work together as a group, and they're a nice whole that worked really well before, and we just go back to the way it was. That would save us a huge amount of money every year.
Aloha. Aloha kako.
Hello.
I'm Lili Kalakame Lehiva from Kamakakuakalani Center for Hawaiian Studies. I think it's really too bad that the chancellor isn't here today and that she's letting you folks take the flak for what's going on. You know, we have some concerns. And I know you can't say anything about that, and I respect that. And I know that you're trying hard to do your job. So perhaps since people are taking notes about what should be sent to the Chancellor, and to the President, and to the Board of Regents, I'd just like to make some suggestions. I think we should be talking about system-wide per student budgeting. You know, how many students do we teach here at Manoa? How much money do we have as a result of that, and how much is going to the community colleges? We should be talking about how we put on hold building new campuses until such time we can afford to staff them. If we can't afford to staff Manoa and we can't afford to staff UH Hilo, there's no use making another 4-year college where we can't afford to staff either, right? I mean, we should be talking about that. That's not here for you to have. That's not your problem in particular. You have to deal with what you've been told to cut. But I think as we look at the bigger picture, that's something, a discussion that ought to be held at Board of Regents level. And the next Board of Regents meeting is here at Manoa. And you can tell the Chancellor and the President that the faculty of Manoa, and probably quite a few people from all the OHA campuses, will be here to talk about how we don't want retrenchment. That's going to be a big issue because it's coming up on the Board of Regents agenda for this next meeting at Manoa, is my understanding. And maybe it'll get cut before we get there on that date. But I think it's an important thing to bring up that we're not going to stand for retrenchment. We're not going to stand for retrenchment. And so we have to remove a certain kind of budget from this column to that column. We have to see how we save money someplace else. Then I think some of the suggestions about top-heavy administration is very appropriate, absolutely. But if that top-heavy administration is not going to earn their $300,000 a year by advocating more for Manoa, or at the other level, advocating more for the University of Hawaii system, then we need to think about how much we're paying them. And all of those things I'd like you to take back. Kathy, you know it's not you can't do anything about that. But so there's the BOR meeting, there's per student budgeting that I think is important. And the other thing is, though, for a question that you folks can answer is, how much of RTRF is coming in this year, and we plan to come in for the next 3 years, and how much of RTRF will help to satisfy the budget deficiencies? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gary Ostrander, Vice Chancellor for Research. Excuse me, RTRF is up a little bit this year, and for those of you who are not familiar with how our RTRF works, some of our newer faculty, it's the overhead that comes in on research grants. The amount of money that will come to the university this year will probably be about $32 to $34 million. 25% of that stays at the system level and deals with compliance, ORS, RCUH, those type. The remainder comes to my office. Just this morning, I released or directed my fiscal office to release the full 50% that we returned to the units that generated. I know there's been some discussion that we were actually going to lower that amount this year because of the fiscal situation, but we're returning the full amount that we do. Now, in response to Lily Kalah's question about how is RTRF also helping with the budget situation, as Kathy mentioned earlier, we do have a little bit of leeway in terms of what we define as research. So, for example, we have elected this year with the advice of the Prioritization Committee and the Budget Work Group to move off of G funds onto RTRF, the dive safety operation, significant parts of environmental health and safety. And what that does is frees up out of the quote, discretionary RTRF I have of about $5 million a year. It basically ties up another 1 to 1.2 million of that, which then flows over to Kathy and G funds. So that's going towards budget relief.